Anji. So we have with us Dr. Sankeet. He is ranked 2 INI-CET November 2022. Big round of applause. Congratulations. We are really, really proud of this achievement. Awesome, awesome achievement. Bache, we'll do an honor by cutting a cake.
Yeah.
So very well done.
We wish him all the best, and we are also using this opportunity to convey our regards to his parents who are in Bangalore.
God bless you.
And we are sending the best wishes and regards to his parents. They're in Bangalore right now watching this video. And they could not be here right now in Delhi, but we would love to meet them when they are in Delhi. Heartiest congratulations.
Hi everyone, I am very, very delighted and I feel extremely happy to have with me none other than Dr. Sankeet. He is a proud Amazonian, a foundation batch student, and he secured an awesome rank 2 in November INI-CET exam. So heartiest congratulations, Sankeet. It is an awesome performance and I'm sure that you do feel on top of the world, yes? So let's see what you want to talk about when you saw the result for the first time, and did it sink in? And I think yesterday you were on cloud 9 and it took some time to settle down.
Yes, ma'am. Definitely. It was like I couldn't trust myself to like check the results. I thought I was tracing the horizontal line wrong for some reason. I was like, where are the other zeros that follow the number? What is happening? So then immediately what happened was I have a senior in Obsgyne. She's an EGPG. So I sent it to her. We had made an agreement that if I get the results, the first person who will be checking it is her. So Srinidhi ma'am, I sent it to her immediately. And then she was like, yaar, tera sach mein aa gaya hai. Then immediately I sent it to my parents. And then I sent it to Divyansh, who had gotten the previous INI-CET rank 2.
Yes.
So he was like, yaar, tera bhi rank 2 aa gaya. And after that, I was like, okay, this actually happened. This happened. And immediately what I did was that I needed an escape. So I had planned to go with my friend out somewhere. So then the moment we went out, I asked her also to check, and we were all like, okay, now we'll not talk about this. We'll put my phone on flight mode and we'll just like have fancy food today. So that's
So did you enjoy your dinner?
Yeah.
Yes.
It was like
were you able to eat with all the excitement?
Yes, ma'am. It was like everything was on the edge, but I was like, let's just focus on the celebration for now.
That's
It was
wonderful.
quite something.
Okay, so I'll hold it for you. Sankeet, getting this top-notch rank in a very, very competitive exam for a very prestigious institute and a group of institutes actually now, is not an easy task. Yes. So I want to know a couple of things, and primarily on your strategy. Yes. What do you think are the key ingredients that you probably mix them well and you're able to do well in the exam as well? So what were those things right from the beginning when you started your preparation until now you feel are the reason why you're here?
I feel main thing was the regularity with postings as well as using your notes. Like you have to schedule yourself. I was honestly afraid of the period. If I didn't get it this time, that what would I do when I have the entire day to myself and I have to just read?
Yeah.
But I really love that sweet balance that you get when you're working a little, you're looking at cases, and at the same time you're reading your notes. So that was what I think really helped, is that I was diligently attending every posting. Like I used to have like almost 100% attendance track record for everything.
Yeah.
So I think that's what really helped. Even Vanshika, who got rank 7 in this exam, she also
is a current intern.
Yeah. And
Yes.
she's in batch D with me, so we used to always like read together and like we used to go to quizzes together and stuff.
Yes.
And we had like mostly the same strategy when it comes to reading. Like we had village first. So we were like, acha, is time pe itna subjects khatam hona chahiye, is time pe ye hona chahiye. And we had a very like healthy competition going on then.
That's wonderful. So two great things that I think come across. So a lot of people think that it is not possible to get a good rank with internship, whereas I often tell our students that internship is a blessing in disguise. Because you're not then fetching more and more material, you're trying to do justice with what you have. You're limiting your content and you're trying to do it in a format where you can do multiple revisions. So yes, so please take home that message that it is absolutely possible to secure top ranks with internship. Secondly, he said healthy competition. I think that is very, very essential because we all need some competition. It's to bring our best versions. And when you have that in your close proximity, I think it's just the cherry on the cake. So very nicely put, Sankeet. Now, I really want to ask you, you said you had a schedule based on your internship program, that you would finish your subjects in this time or this time. So, I often get queries from students, as well as I'm sure you would be getting those queries. How do you decide that how many days are you going to give for medicine or surgery or major and minor subjects or some medium subjects? So maybe a detail on the strategy on how you initially planned your study better.
Yes, ma'am. So our final profs got over on December 31st. So immediately following that, we had the month of Jan for ourselves, and mid-Jan to end Jan is where our internship started. So in that period of time, I was like, okay, now I have to make a plan. So what I thought I'll do is that in the first month, I had 2 subjects to cover, just forensics and anatomy. I was like, I'll start slow and then I'll gradually pick up my pace. So in those 15 days, because first 15 days I took a break of January, the next 15 days I finished these 2 subjects. I was like initially slow about it because I tried to do all of my core notes and like make sure that I don't even miss a single point. I was not reading it from the purpose of the exam. I was trying to finish like question banks of every place and all that stuff. And then I realized it's a little bit too much. You don't need that much information. And it's like, you don't really need to do that much. So then I thought, okay, now let me discuss with Vanshika as to what to do next. So we were like, okay, now we have village in the next 3 months. In the next 3 months, we have to finish the first 2-year subjects.
Okay.
So in 3 months, I scheduled anat, physio, biochem, and micro, path, and pharma.
So this was in first 2 months.
First month, forensics and anatomy were finished. In the remaining next 3 months, I finished the first 2-year subjects.
And also just to ask you something here, when you say finished the subject, does it mean you were focusing on notes as well as MCQ practice? Were you also including PYQs at this time, or you kept them for later on revision? What was the strategy?
So this time, after that 15 days where I spent doing just 2 subjects, I was like, okay, now even when I'm free, if I'm doing only 2 subjects in 15 days, that can't be it. So then I discarded the idea of doing question banks altogether. I was like, okay, let me just I'll start a subject with doing the previous year questions, and subsequently I'll do the notes for that subject.
Perfect.
Okay, so that was just what I did for every subject subsequently, and I would bookmark whatever is the important questions and stuff like that. I would keep it in a separate place so that I can revise those concepts later. But so I stopped doing like Q banks altogether, and I just focused on doing grant tests. So I had like a schedule that after say around March, then I started doing grant tests on a weekly basis. And whether or not I would get a bad rank, it was immaterial, but I had to do it on every week because I thought if I don't do this, then I don't have any MCQ exposure.
Right.
So then I was like, okay, let me do it every week, 1 grant test. Nothing more than that, nothing less than that.
So I think that is a wonderful, wonderful strategy, and something which is very important that he's highlighted. When you try and do a lot of things, your reading becomes so slow that you start having self-doubts. Are you on the right track or not? So I think he realized it pretty soon, and that's where he said that this is what is going to be my first priority, finishing my notes, doing the PYQ. So that is something again, yes, we always reinforce that, especially for INI set, PYQ practice is important. And he started it right in the beginning and not really leaving it for the end. And grant test he started at the end of March. 3rd month, right? So March he started. And also, you said, Sankeet, that irrespective of what marks you were getting, yes, you ensured that you gave the grant test. So was it with certain target? What was your purpose of giving the grant test? Was it learning the content from it? Was it just improving your MCQ skill? Was it time management? Or was it an analysis into your strengths and weaknesses?
I think for me it was more about testing how much I know and figuring out how much I need to work in a rough sense, not in because what questions they ask in grant tests are not exactly representative of what will come in the exam. So it's more like to see how much your preparation has gotten for till now. I had the target I should get around 140, 150 questions correct initially, but that time in the first few grant tests I got 120 correct, and then I got 130 correct. I was kind of disheartened okay, I'm getting so few correct, what is going on? But the trajectory was very gradual. Although people will say that they got good stuff very soon and stuff, for me it was very slow. So I got my first 150 to 160 range correct well into August, June, August and September, and then subsequently it started improving. So it's not a one day, one wonder kind of situation. It's a gradual thing.
So I think again a very, very vital piece of information that he is a topper, right? Getting rank 2 in INI CT exam. And we must be thinking, he's born brilliant and mehnat karne ki bhi zarurat nahi hai. But do you see how much effort how much hard work, how much planning, strategy has gone into it. And he also started with a relatively lesser number of correct questions, but that didn't sort of stop him from pursuing what he wanted to do. And that's the spirit or mindset of a winner that we all need to have, I think. It is a gradual process. You will improve. You need to have faith in your abilities. Yes? Okay, so from March, or let's say till March, you finished your first and second year subjects. Then how did you plan further on?
And then I set another target that now I have April, May, June and July.
Okay.
So in these 4 months I'm supposed to finish the next whatever subjects are remaining.
Okay.
So by August start I had finished
One-time reading
one
for
time
everything.
reading. And this was my core notes, like whatever core notes I had made in my MBBS curriculum, that I read in this period.
Okay.
So after that I started feeling like now I need to finally skim stuff. So in the next, from August till November was my only reading that the last minute revision, the thing which is the compilation of all the previous year questions and those topics.
So no. This is a very important part, and I'm getting all excited to know more about it. So this is one place that students often find themselves in a fix, right? They've done the first reading and they feel it was thorough, but they have a feeling that I don't remember anything. Yes, and I'm sure that feeling does come up with everyone sometime or the other. Now, when you plan your first revision, as we call it, what was your target? Was to again go through page 1 to page nth of your notes? How did you exactly do the skimming? Is what I really want to know.
Is for those next few months, I had thought that at least I should do around 2 to 3 revisions from September, October, November, these 3 months.
Okay.
So what I did was that from August included, because I finished by July end. So
Okay.
August, September, October and half of November. So now I have 3.5 months. I had planned 1.5 months I'll do 1 revision, and the remaining time I have to do 2 more revisions if I'm lucky, and I might have to remove some subjects in the last few revisions.
Yes.
But in the first, I thought in 1.5 months I'll end up doing a consolidation of whatever important previous topics were there. So then there were PDFs available where it was just whatever questions has been asked previously. And it's it can be frustrating at times because in so many topics you know that there are so many more things to it than what they've just mentioned. They've just mentioned the disease, causative agent, the drug that they used to treat it. But you know that there are so many things in between.
Yes.
And you kind of get frustrated if you don't read it. But at that point of time you need to realize that this is all you need to know. And this is all that's important for the exam at this point of time, and so you just need to make your notes very concise at that point of time. You should not go back to your parent notes because those are they'll take you forever. I remember when I started again in the start of August, I picked up biochem and I tried to read my main notes, and it took me around 4 to 5 days just to finish one subject. So I was that is too much. I can't afford that much time, and that too for biochem,
which is anyways volatile. Yeah.
So I was okay, no, you have to do these modules provided by coaching institutes where it's all concise and it's up just the previous questions all summarized into one thing. So the faculty did a really great job of summarizing everything into a small thing. For instance, the DVTs were really helpful in pharma, in obs-gynae, in ophtha, and that really helped summarize the information into a very brief thing that you can finish in half a day even if you really put into an effort. So then that was really helpful at the last revision.
I think a very, very, very well planned study strategy, and that's what we all need to do. Every subsequent revision has to take lesser and lesser time, and you have to have this faith that no, it's okay, I would remember it even if it crops up some more detail about it, but majorly, yes, these are the points that I definitely need to know. And also, since he has mentioned, and now, from now onwards until NEET, Sankeet, there are about 3 months, which is what you also approximately had for your revision before INI set. Yes, so how would you advise some of the other students who are wanting to appear for NEET PG exam? How could they use these 3 months for a very effective revision, I would say fast revision and multiple revisions?
So I would divide it into 1.5 month chunk.
Okay.
And in the first 1.5 month, I would do my first revision. In the next 1.5 month, I'd break it into 1 month and then half a month.
Okay.
That 1 month, I would try to nudge in one more revision. Maybe in that revision, I'd remove subjects maybe not revise CCM, physiology, because these are stuff that you usually, there's nothing to remember. It's more or less if you...
Concepts.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So then just remove that aside. And then in the last half chunk, only take the main stuff which is asked, regardless of whether you're good at them or not. For instance, I was confident with obs-gynae, but I still put it in the last 5 days because I was something will come that I don't know, some number will come that I don't remember, so let me revise it. So then based on whatever, not my strengths at the last 5 days, based on what is asked, I put the last 5 days as obs, gynae, surgery, micro, pharma and path. These subjects I put because I thought that regardless of what happens, I need to know this.
Yes,
I need
and
to
there
revise
were
this.
there was significant number of questions from, I think, obs and gynae and yes, pharma as well, I think. So that is a strategy that even you could use if you are in a fix on how to plan your revisions, right? And also, Sankeet, let's talk about INI set paper per se. I'm sure you've heard from your seniors, from people around you, that these subjects are important, these are not important. So how much weightage do you really give to these hearsays, and what would be your input on what subjects are like must-dos, they should be your strengths, what subjects are, you can be just okay with, and what are like the ones that you really need to score into high ranks?
So top priority are your second year subjects, that is micropharma, path, forensics, along with obs, gynae in your final year subjects, obs, gynae
Yeah.
and surgery. Apart from that, everything else comes as intermediate tier. And a low tier I would put as CCM, physiology, and maybe ENT also. Like, they don't ask too many questions.
Yes.
And I think that's how I would put it. These subjects I'd put way down, and the rest of them are all intermediate. So the top priority should be your second year subjects along with obs, gynae, surgery. So this you have to know. Like medicine, you can literally like leave it also if you want. Like I had to do a medicine revision, 2 of them in fact in the last bit, but I didn't have time, so I ended up doing just half of what I had to do. And I was like, okay, now I have path. Let me just leave it at path. Like whatever path is there, that will only help me in medicine. So medicine is something you can put in the lower tier only, like along with CCM and
Great. Okay, and now let's talk about the exam strategy itself. Yes. So you had an evening session, if I'm right. Okay, so do you want to do a comparative analysis on the morning and the evening session? Anything that you want to say? And what about the various types of questions that you got? Because it was not the routine pattern that usually INI set sticks to. So there were a lot of other pattern questions as well. So any specificities that you want to mention about the paper itself?
So in the morning paper, what happened in that day was that I immediately waited. I was at the center very early, of course. And when the people came out, I asked them ki kaisa tha, what kind of questions did they ask. They were like, there are a lot of previous year questions, all of them very short and brief and crisp and sweet. Okay, like literally my friend who told me, they showed a picture of keratin pearls and they were like, kya, kaun sa carcinoma? And I was like, oh my god, wow, okay. So in my head, I had mentally prepared for an easy paper at that point of time. I was like, okay, chalo, let's go, let's do this. And the second I opened the MCQ slot, I was like, okay, first question, theek hai, little bit slow, fine. And then I'm looking into this MCQ module and I'm like, okay, all of the questions are this huge and options are also itne bade se, and what is happening, it's taking me so much time. I had set up time chunks. So like you have a total of 180 minutes to solve 200 questions. So I was like 135 when the timer reaches from 180 to 135, you should have finished 50 questions. That's barely making it. I thought by around 140, I would have finished 50 questions. So, but then when I was looking at the timer, I realized that I am just barely making the chunks as the time progresses, and I'm literally at that last second, like trying to get all of the questions in. So normally when I do a grand test, I have like around 1 hour, 1.5 hour remaining to like analyze whatever questions are given. But in this, I literally had only 20 minutes at the ending. And to my bad luck, I had marked whatever questions I wanted to review on the paper. I don't trust the mark for review options.
Yes,
that,
because it's not the right thing to do as well. Kabhi bhul jao to fir it's all gone.
All gone. So I literally had written it in a piece of paper and I was reviewing those questions, and in the last 5 minutes the invigilator comes and snatches the paper away, and I'm like, okay, I guess now I'm blindly reviewing. But it was fine. Like in the at that point of time, I just thought, okay, even if I don't have time to revise, I will attempt questions. And I had this one particular strategy that in the 4 options, if I'm capable of eliminating even one,
Okay.
then I will look for a slight hunch and mark something. Like there is some inner voice that will tell you if you've attended your postings and stuff that maybe this is the right answer, and then I would mark it. So I literally attempted all 200 of the.
Wow. So I think some very, very important points have come out here. So plan your people well. I mean, you should always keep a watch on the watch and see that you're hitting the targets correctly, because you may need to pace up in the middle because the pattern changes. As he says, there were lengthier questions, lengthier options. So don't get disheartened. It happens with toppers as well. You just have to have the knack of handling it. Also, something that he said was, please do not mark a lot of questions for mark for review, because they aren't counted. So, like he said that he kept a separate mark on a paper and wrote them there and then went back to those questions, that is a decent way of doing it. Yes, and then you can change. Another very important thing he said was that, even if he's able to rule out one option, he would go for it. And I think absolutely, because the negative marking is not very intensive. The pluses are way too beyond if you get it correct. So, and also something that I really liked listening to him was that he went with his gut instinct. When you've worked hard all your years and you've given a good input, that your whatever mind is talking to you, your instincts usually turn out to be right. So don't overthink in the exams. I've seen a lot of students who do overthink, put a lot of ifs and buts, and land up doing the simplest things wrong as well. Yes. And how do you manage, suppose you get a question which you haven't heard about, or let's say was a couple of them tricky at the same time. How did you manage your mindset at that moment?
Like, I told myself that let's not overthink the consequences of getting a question wrong.
Yeah.
Like, at that point of time, it's easy to catastrophize and be like, okay, no, if I get this wrong, my rank will come down, this will happen, that will happen. At that point of time, just focus on that one question and see if you can get it, like, just think at that point of time. So what I did was that I marked it, like, regardless of what I thought would be the right answer or not, I put a mark, then I went ahead, I had like double circled those questions where I like literally feel like I just guessed. So then I came back. When I had 20 minutes remaining, it was not that much time to review the whole paper, but it's enough to review those questions where you really had it out. And then you go and spend some time to think on it. Like, don't waste too much time thinking of it in that time frame when you're solving the paper, because you have only like less than a minute to solve a question. So I would give it that much time, but if it crosses that, then I would mark something and go ahead.
Wonderful. I think very, very vital tips, because I think exam skill is also that we must learn. It's not just about content and it's not just about memorizing things. Having the right exam skill is very, very essential, because eventually it's those 3 hours that matter, right? And now, Sankeet, you have been a very consistent, hardworking student, and I'm sure that is one of your USPs, that you've been consistent right from the beginning. Apart from consistency, do you think, what would you advise your colleagues or juniors or anyone else who's listening out to you that they must have or they must develop a habit of in order to do well in competitive exams?
Apart from consistency, I really don't think there's anything other than consistency. Like, there's no intelligence that goes into this. There is no, it's just the fact, like, I feel in general the medical career is also rewarding of this, is the fact that you have resilience. Just show up regardless of how bad things are going. Just consistently show up. I truly believe that that's the one thing that's rewarded in this career, not anything, not your intelligence, not your whatever. So, like, I used to compare grand tests, obviously. In our college, like, everyone's very public about what rank they're getting and all that stuff. It's very easy to get disheartened by all of it.
Yes.
But, like,
puts you under a lot of pressure as well.
And it's easy to compare yourself with anyone else. But if you were able to do a little bit better than what you did previously, that's more than sufficient, and just stay consistent. Like, I used to have an app. This app is called To Date, and it tells you the number of hours you study in a day.
Okay.
So, and you can put in ranges of pages and stuff. So what I do is that any PDF that I'm supposed to read, I'd have the number of pages set in that, and every day it sets you a target. You're supposed to fill in 100 pages or something like that. If you don't do it, then it pushes the number of pages to the next day. But if you do it, it reduces the number of pages scheduled for the next day. So it was like really good to keep my productivity up. I mean, it's very easy to read close to the exam. You have an adrenaline rush and you don't need all of this. But the question is, how do you put in 8 to 10 hours and stuff before,
throughout?
Like, way before?
And I think what he said is, you could use an app, you could use anything, but the idea is to give yourself daily targets. And not only give yourself daily targets, but actually reward yourself in whatever way you feel. For example, here the reward was reducing the number of pages, and there was a penalty as well. So, that is the entire idea, that if you have to stay consistent, it sounds very, very cliche that you need to have consistency, but how do we ensure that we are consistent? It can only happen if you have a daily, well-defined short target. See, एक तो बड़ा target है that I have to do well in the exam. I have to complete my course by the end of 3 months or whatever. But then these daily targets are, I think, are his USP as well. I think he's ensured that he is pushing throughout. Yes, so it is absolutely wonderful to sit beside you, Sankeet, and listen to the strategy. And I'm sure people who are listening out to you would also gain a lot. They would improvise and they would be able to extract some vital information. And now, Sankeet, what branch do you want to pursue, bache?
Ma'am, I really want to take obs gynae.
And I had quite a lot of discussion with him, and I'm so happy that he wants to take up obs and gynae. And I think no matter what branch you take, if you have love for the branch, you are going to excel in it. It's not about clinical, paraclinical, surgical, non-surgical, medicinal. You have to have the right reasons to take the branch, and I think he really has the love for the branch, and he's going to excel in it. So we're going to wish him all the very best for a very bright future ahead, Sankeet, and may you be a very successful doctor, surgeon, whatever you want to pursue as your future career. So all the very best, and thank you for making DAMS a part of your journey.
Thank you so much, ma'am. The pleasure is all mine. Literally, it's an honor.
No, it's absolutely great to sit behind, besides a very humble doctor and someone who has a very clarity in the thought process on how to go about things. Because as doctors, we do need that. We have a lot on our mind, a lot on our plate. So a clarity of thought keeps us going through, right? And something motivating that you want to say to people who are listening to you, Sankeet?
Don't let others push you down, and most important of all, don't let you yourself push yourself down. I mean, the narrative is always going to try to make you fail. It's up to you to decide what you do with the narrative and what you tell yourself that you are going to become. So I think you're the one who tells your story the best. That's what I would say.
That's great. That's absolutely great. So when you're labeling your own self, be careful of what labels you give yourself. Yes, you have to have high standards of yourself, and then I'm sure that we're going to work in maintaining those standards. So all the very best, Sankeet. It was a pleasure to have you here, and best wishes and regards to you.